What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We hope you enjoyed our little April Fool's bit with the AI voice readings. People seem to get a kick out of that, and that is why you should be subscribed to the YouTube for little gimmicks like that. You can't get those anywhere else. So make sure that if you're not already, head on over and subscribe to the Stay Hot YouTube. But before we get into our topic today, which will be NFL draft prospect running backs and tight ends, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I thought that AI thing turned out really well. I thought it was really funny. And man, they got through that in 7 minutes. If we talked like them, we could cut this podcast down to 15 minutes easily.
Great point. Great point, Matt. I really loved what you had to say.
Great pick, Theo.
I really liked the Bengals pick, I think, where it was like, and with the 28th pick, the Bengals select, wait for it, DJ Ojulari.
My favorite was
who got
Bijan getting picked 3 times.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, everyone gets picked many, many times in that draft, multiple times over. And yes, we just talk at a breakneck pace, but it sounded like us, especially I thought my voice.
No, Theo, your
maybe
voice
that's just because it's me.
Your voice
but
was
it was
so
a little bit unnerving.
On.
It was a little unnerving to hear your own voice say things that you never said. And if Jordan Love's career does not go as hoped, please know that it was an AI voiceover of the other video that I released. Any bad take, I'm just going to say.
You're falling for a deep fake.
It was a deep fake.
Yeah,
it's a deep that fake. Stupid.
Yeah, you could see my face doesn't quite look like my face.
So true. So
and
true.
My voice doesn't quite sound like my voice.
I showed Sophia and Zach, and they were like, Matt's voice, I think, kind of sounds like Matt. Theo's voice, I think, really sounds like Theo's. But Blaiden, I could never tell if your voice was you or Matt.
It was a little wonky.
It was a little wonky, but I thought it came out okay. The script was just funny.
Yeah.
But
outside of that, I'm doing good.
I'm glad. Theo, you're doing well as well, I hope.
Doing well, yeah.
That's good. No elaborate stoic moments for you?
Those are opposites, I think. But no elaborate or stoic moments for me. Somewhere in between. All right, well, we're going to hop right in. Talking about, I think we'll start with the running back prospects. There's kind of more of them that we have to discuss, I feel like.
Yeah, we've got a weird position group pairing for the episode today. We're talking about running backs and tight ends, which maybe you don't hear all the time, but we wanted to get through the skill position guys, and we couldn't do it all in one episode. So wide receivers first, now running backs and tight ends. I like this running back class.
I mean, Matt, knowing you, ever since I've known Matt, he has always had deep sleeper running backs. Every year, he's like, this guy's going to be great. This guy's going to be great. I don't this year that much. Mayan Williams was supposed to come out and he didn't, and that was my guy, Meatball. So Meatball.
Next year I've got you, but this year not so much. I mean, we should really start off though talking about Bijan Robinson. No,
yeah,
and I get it. I think that he is totally. I don't know if I agree with the principle of the first round running back. I think people have started to push back towards oh yeah, dude, you should just take these running backs in the first. And I'm maybe staying back and saying, I don't know. High second is one thing, but first is tough. But there's certainly been other guys who are not as good as him who have been first round running backs. So if that's the standard for the NFL, he should absolutely be there.
Right. I understand the perspective of if you value him really highly as a player, then yeah, I mean, we always say, well, if you like him at 30, then you like him at 15, and you should probably just take him at 15, right? But at the same time, I've seen people say he should go top 10. And I'm like, if you're picking in the top 10 this year, the only teams there are needing QBs and defensive players. And if you
no running back should ever go in the top 10. Always a bad pick.
Yeah. Always a bad pick.
I think with Robinson, like what's killing him now is that he's getting like the Saquon comp, and like, yeah, he's not Saquon Barkley, but a guy his size moving like he does, even at his top speed, with his elusiveness and his play strength and contact balance. I absolutely think that if you're sitting at pick 20 late something, yeah, I totally see it. I think he's got it. I think between him, Najee Harris, and Travis Etienne, I think I'd take him.
The first round running back debate is interesting. I don't want to be one of the guys who is like, running back is so valueless. Like every contract you pay him is bad. Every time you take one, even on day 2, it's bad, because you get that mentality sometimes. But I mean, I think that you kind of have to look at some of the evidence and how Super Bowl teams are built, and how it is like running backs aren't on them a lot of the times. And a lot of the times when star running backs get hurt, offenses don't completely go off the rails. Like there are a lot of good ones around. And I think that, positional value is a real thing. I don't think that anyone would say quarterback isn't the most valuable position on the football field. And if quarterback is like clearly the most valuable, that means you can quantify like other positions as well.
Right.
But the case for drafting a running back in the first round is this. If Bijan Robinson is good and you're at like pick, I don't know, maybe a team has 15 first round grades on players. You're at pick 20. All your guys that are first round picks that you really liked are gone. If you take Bijan Robinson and he's good, because he will be, that's a good draft pick on your resume, right? If you're a GM, you can go, no one is going to point to him. And if he makes a Pro Bowl and he has over 1,000 rushing yards,
right,
like that gives you years really to make other good picks in the future. Whereas if you are sitting there at 17, 18, 19, and you're like, man, I don't know if I want to spend a top 20 pick on any of these guys who aren't running back. Like this could really look bad for me. Like I get it in that sense. And I get it, especially in Bijan's case, because he is a 3-down guy. And I do think that provides some value when you can just have one guy in the backfield all the time. He could take a bunch of carries. It doesn't give away if you're running the ball or passing the ball. Like when you don't have that 3rd down back and he's in the game, like all of a sudden, like, okay, we know that this is probably going to be a run. So it makes you a little bit more unpredictable when you've got a guy like Bijan carrying the load. And I think like at the end of the day, when you get to the playoffs, it does help to be more well-rounded. It does help when you're going against top teams that you're not just all passing or all running, and he can help balance you out. I don't think that he's an Adrian Peterson, Saquon Barkley. No. Like he's not my number 1 prospect in this draft class. Like he is for a lot of people. Like overall, pound for pound, ignoring positional value, he's the best one. I don't agree with that, but he is, I think, in the top 10 if you stack up just like pure talent in this class. He's up there.
Let me ask you this. Is he the best running back prospect since Saquon? I think that is a far more fair discussion than saying, is he Saquon? Because he's not.
Right. I honestly like the 2 I love the 2 last year. I honestly
don't
Kenneth
know,
Walker.
Man. I love Kenneth Walker and Hall. I don't know if I have them above Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson.
It's an interesting debate. So my thought process, especially with Breece, is I think like a lot of Breece's skills are the same as Bijan's skills, in that like I was really struck by his patience, by his footwork, by his productivity at Iowa State. And I thought that he had more home run speed than Bijan did. Like I thought that he had a little bit more of an aspect of explosiveness to him. I thought that he pulled away from people a little bit better than Bijan does. I thought he was maybe
I don't think he's as
more
elusive as Bijan. I think Bijan gets at his top speed and he still moves like he's sitting behind the offensive line waiting to pick the hole that he's going through. I don't disagree entirely about the top speed thing, although Bijan is there's levels to like you either do or don't have home run speed. It's a little bit more gray than that, I think. But I don't know, man. I think he's pretty up there. I love Kenneth Walker, but I think he's kind of dancy behind the line. And sometimes
so is Bijan, though.
Yeah, certainly. But I think Walker's even more so. So I like Bijan. Like, especially we saw it last year with the Seahawks, and I think he's really good. And I think that's something he's not so far off that it can't get better, but I probably have Bijan just slightly ahead of those two.
It's valid. I mean, that's the case. Most people think like that. And NFL teams love him. Like, I'm not that plugged in, but from everything I've heard from some people that I do know who are more plugged in than me, like this is like a friend of a friend, but I have heard that he will go top 15. Like that is a real hype. Like the NFL is super duper high on him. I read a piece from The Athletic where I think it was Bruce Feldman did a mock, and he talked to like his friends who work in college football and the NFL. And all the quotes from the people in the league were like, this guy is perfect. He is our perfect darling boy, and he is amazing. And he really is good. He really is very good. Like he can block, he can catch. You can line him up probably in the slot if you wanted to. And obviously he's a great runner with amazing footwork.
Where in the top 15 would he go?
In the top 15?
Yeah. That seems like a tough one, no? I mean,
I've heard the Patriots really like him. That is something that I've heard from two people, the two people that I know who might know things. I've heard it from both of them. But, you never know. They haven't really invested in running back like that. And they have Ramondre Stevenson, but I've heard they like him a lot. I've heard the Eagles really do like him a lot.
If Tennessee traded away Derrick Henry and they didn't trade up in the draft, there's a world in which they could pull the trigger on that.
None of these teams should do this. I feel very
none of them should.
You know what it is about the not taking a running back in the first round? That's true, but people just don't like analytics, so they disagree with it now. I think it's like, I'm sorry, you really just shouldn't do. It's not a good way to build a Super Bowl team. I think the analytics is part of it, but also like if you're picking in the top 15, top 10, you always have bigger needs. Almost always, except for like the Eagles this year, right? But even they should probably just take a corner. They definitely have bigger needs than running
right?
back.
It's like even the Eagles have bigger needs than that.
They literally have the most efficient running back in football on the roster. Like Rashad Penny is good. Going to be damn good as long as he's healthy, which he's not going to be. But even then, like Kenneth Gainwell has been good when he's been in.
That is another thing to talk about, though, with Bijan. He's been banged up while he's at Texas. He's had several injuries, and he's coming into the NFL with like 600 touches. Yeah, that's the other big problem with taking a guy top 15. And can you are you confident you can give him a second contract? That's why it
matters. It matters more down the line than it does now, because I remember that was the big question with Jonathan Taylor was like,
Ezekiel Elliott's another guy. He got a ton of touches, and what happened to him? He was amazing for a little while, and then by the time they gave him this huge extension, it was a disaster immediately.
Right. Yeah, it definitely is something to worry about. And I just don't think he has the burst, the like really explosive, like, whoa. They give him the ball and he's just like, by the time he hits the line of scrimmage, he's going as fast like he's been going 30 yards down the field. That's what it looks like with like Adrian Peterson and Saquon and even Jonathan Taylor to some extent. And even I think when Kenneth Walker wants to do it, he can be like that. I just don't think that
felt like it in a minute though.
I just think because he is very patient. He spends a lot of time like behind the line of scrimmage, perusing through the mess, and he's got great footwork and he can really do it. But, if you dance behind the line of scrimmage like that and you don't have that really explosive ability, I do worry that he's going to eat more negative plays than he did in college, and like maybe more than you'd like to see the average NFL running back take. And I loved Kenneth Walker, and that's a problem he legitimately did run into. I thought Kenneth Walker had like perfectly fine, like borderline great vision and decisiveness at Michigan, and maybe I just misread that situation. But at the NFL level, it kind of swallowed him up sometimes, and I do worry a little bit like Bijan's yards per carry or his explosive play rate is going to be a little bit bad, or not bad, but disappointing, I guess. Like, at least with the creating explosive plays aspect of it. Like he could pick his way through the mess, but is he going to hit the hole hard and just like be gone several times per season? I don't know about that. And it's fine. It's fine. Like he's still very good. I'm just a little bit lower on him than like the average person is.
Well, I think the average is being brought up by people who are saying he's like the best running back in the last 20 years. And I think if people really thought he was Saquon or AP, if that was really the consensus opinion, he would be going top 10. But
I think he might. I think he might. He might go top 10.
I mean, in our mock draft, he went at 10, 27, and then again at like 29. So
the AI mock draft, yes. Even 3 times.
I think he hits the hole really well. I kind of disagree. I agree that maybe he doesn't have the craziest long speed, and I agree that he's not like one of the top running back prospects ever, like people make him out to be, but he's very, very good, and I think the best running back we've seen in a while.
I think that Washington makes a lot of sense for him at 16, just because they have the receiving core, they have the defense to some extent. Like, they could definitely use another linebacker or a corner, but
there's not a linebacker to pick.
They're starting Sam Howell.
There might not be a
They're
corner
starting
there.
Sam Howell, and like maybe they think he can hit some go balls and run the football and do what he did at UNC. But when he was at UNC, did he not have like Javonte Williams and Michael Carter? Was that the Sam Howell era? Like, I don't know. I feel like they might say, okay, we feel confident in Sam Howell. We don't feel confident in Sam Howell dropping back and passing it 30 times a game. Maybe as like, we'll run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, play action, get Sam Howell on the move, and like see if he can hit something down the field, which is what he was so good at. Like, build our passing game kind of off of our running game a little bit. Maybe. We want a workhorse, like, because the guys we got, but they've invested, in the Bama running back and Antonio Gibson recently.
I'm very low on Brian Robinson though, but we'll see. We probably should talk about some of the other backs. I can't lie to you. Like
the other Alabama running back who does look like he's shot out of a cannon when he hits the second level. I mean,
he's got...
Good God, Jahmyr Gibbs is fast.
He's got a real second gear that you can see. Like, he'll get to the edge and, he's been going, and then he has like that opportunity to burn an angle, and then he turns on that second gear and he burns it. And that's what I don't really see with Bijan, which is fine. Like, I like Bijan way more than Gibbs, but Gibbs does have that, and he was very good, very, very efficient on those outside runs last season.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I don't think that he's the best in between the tackles. I think sometimes he can fire in there and get taken down a little bit easier than you'd like him to. But it's hard not to be a fan of what he does on those outside runs and what he brings to the receiving game, because it's very, very easy for him catching the ball. And maybe I'm just a hair low on him, because you'll see some comps that are like CJ Spiller and you're like, okay. And you'll see some comps that are like, I've seen a few Jamal Charles, and it's like, I get it. That is a tall order. So I like him very well, but I think the sort of like middle of the second where he's been slotted sometimes recently is fair. Yeah, I wouldn't. He's not like a borderline first round.
Hear me out, guys. The Chargers in the first round get Zay Flowers. Then in the second round, they're expected to lose Austin Eckler. Okay. Okay.
I don't want them to get Austin Eckler, though. I want an actual running back on their team.
I know, but imagine Austin Eckler if he was running like a 4.3.
I don't care. I don't want to imagine that. It would probably look a lot like the Chargers offense of today, where like there's, I don't know, man. I would rather see them take Bijan and actually have a guy who they can give the ball to 20 times in a game. That's my main concern about Gibbs, is he just doesn't really have the workload. Like that's the same thing I was looking at with my problems with Eckler. Is a lot of what exists with Gibbs. It's like, can you actually lean on this guy? Can you actually give him the ball, have him run between the tackles, have him hold up, and have him be more efficient, even with a big workload? With Eckler, he just isn't a super efficient between the tackles runner when his workload gets bigger. And that's why they don't give him a big workload. With Gibbs, I mean, you know how many times, according to Sports Info Solutions, he ran between the tackles this year?
I mean, he didn't even have 200 touches this year.
He had like 150 carries, man.
He had
20 times.
He had 39 carries between the tackles this year. Bijan had 109. And maybe you could say like, oh, that's no tread off of his tires. But I worry about like, is he someone who's going to play a large amount of the snap?
Yeah, but like, why weren't they treading his tires?
Right.
Why weren't they driving the car?
I would be worried like, oh, he's a little bit skinny. Why weren't they driving the car? He's a little bit skinny. You know, he wants to bounce it outside. He wants to get to open space. Like, does he have, you know, that physical presence?
Right.
And so I think he's going to be really good in like a third down back type of role and like as a complimentary guy, but I would absolutely want to pair him with somebody else, you know? And so it's there. So when you get to that, it's like, okay, you've got this running back that I think is going to play like 50% of the snaps. Like, where do you value that?
Yeah. See, I think there's a real argument for him being a third rounder there. I really do. It just kind of depends on how much you think you can actually get him on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's such a Sean Payton running back. I'm sure like Sean Payton would be tripping over himself to draft this guy because they always have a running back who can like run the full route tree, whether that be like Spiller, who I would compare him to, and it's a very common comparison. Like that was a saint. Alvin Kamara, obviously one of the best receiving backs of the last couple of years. He's a saint. I remember, maybe I'm mistaken about this, but I always think of like Pierre Thomas as being kind of one of those like route tree running backs, receiving backs for his day.
I think so too, but that's going back to when I was like 9.
Sproles, yeah, Sproles was a really effective receiver and good route runner out of the backfield. Like he just feels like a Sean Payton guy. So I don't know if the Broncos would have an opportunity to draft him, but like pairing him with Javonte Williams in Denver could be kind of fun. And
that's how you take a little bit of weight off of Javonte's shoulders and say,
and Russ's shoulders, because Russ is terrible now. Russ would never check it down though, so
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Maybe that's wrong. I just don't think of him as someone who wants to check it down very often. But he just seems like a Sean Payton kind of guy. And any offense that asks a lot of its running back, or you know, maybe wants a player, or they have a quarterback who doesn't check it down a lot because they don't have a running back worth checking it down to. I'm trying to think of what offense this could be. I don't know, but it's a lot easier to get a quarterback to make the safe play when the safe play is a guy like Gibbs or Kamara or, you know, McCaffrey. So
honestly, you know what offense would really welcome him with open arms?
What?
The Browns.
Why?
They lost Kareem.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
They go Nick Chubb, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jerome Ford in that backfield.
They already have Ford. They would be taking carries away from Ford.
The greatest running back.
I'm actually going to be really pissed if they get another running back. I'm going to be mad. I fully expect Jerome Ford running back to getting some carries next year.
I can almost guarantee you the Browns will take a running back in the 5th round. They will take a receiver in the 3rd and a running back in the 5th. This is the lock.
They won't be taking a wide receiver in the 3rd since they just traded for more. And they
that's
3rd.
Right. They lost
I feel like
3rd,
that would be a little bit counterintuitive, but I don't know. I feel like there's definitely a place for him in the league. It's just not quite a valuable enough place to be. And I hate that it all just boils down to value, but like really he's someone that he's like Swift a little bit. Like I think he's going to be really dynamic and everyone's going to love him and everyone's going to be like, wow, he is so much more talented than Jamal Williams or whatever running back is there. When he touches it, it goes really well. Like he picks up 15 yards on a check down, or he, you know, bounces outside and it gets a bunch of yards. Like I think that could be his path, but I think teams don't want that guy to touch the ball too much. They want to keep him in that like explosive, smaller sample size type of role, and it's going to frustrate everybody because he's like he's famous and he's going to be like a high pick and he's going to be like very electric when he does get the ball. So he's going to be a nice piece. I think he's just not quite the type of running back that I would be drafting too highly.
Fair enough. This episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by our friends over at Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers world-class products rivaling tons of other brands that I've tried in the past. They have you covered from the sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and much more. I mean, look at our fabulous co-host Theo Ash NFL rocking those polarized sunglasses. You could look just as drippy, if not more drippy, than Theo right there.
Last time I wore mine in a TikTok video, they said I looked like Baby Driver. So,
hey,
it's
I can see that.
Yeah, with my new haircut, you can go back and look at the video. It's not that long ago. I see it too.
Bro's the Baby Driver. That's crazy. I mean, if you lose or break your pair, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. And if for whatever reason you don't instantly fall in love like we all did, just exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop at Shady Rays because their team always has your back. But I think my favorite thing about Shady Rays is their emphasis on giving back. To date, they've donated over 20 million meals to fight hunger with Feeding America. So with Shady Rays, you can look good and feel good knowing you're helping to make a difference. And now, exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the new year. Go to shadyrays.com and use the code STAYHOT for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. And try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people. So head on over to Shady Rays. Make an impact together. Well, getting outside of kind of those top 2 guys,
it's them and then everybody else.
But here's
A-Chain and
the next group of guys
Spears
tend to be more productive, it seems, than the guys that we've looked at prior. So we'll start with Tyjae Spears. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name correctly.
I think it's Tyjae.
Tyjae Spears, 19 touchdowns, 6.9 yards per attempt, dog. That is...
I've not watched a ton of him. I've watched some of the guys on this list, but there's just too many running backs to get through.
There's a lot of them.
Spears, to me, like, I liked him. Again, I wonder about his ability to, like, be a 3-down back. Like, is this going to be a guy who totals 1,000 yards in the league? Or is this a guy who can come down on third downs and offer you some cool highlights as like a change of pace back? That is kind of my initial thought on him. I really did like his footwork. Like when he's in the open field, it's a total show. He'll hit some moves and do some things that are unfamiliar, I guess, or interesting. It's even difficult to describe. They're creative. They're something that I wouldn't expect if I'm like, oh, what's he going to do next? And then he'll do something that I didn't quite think he was going to do. And I appreciate that about him. He's got some home run speed. I mean, the amount of guys he sets up and makes miss is very, very impressive. He has had his share of injuries. He's someone that I don't quite have a hot take on yet, but he is clearly very, very talented. I feel kind of similar about him to Gibbs, where it's like he's really talented, but I don't know if he's like in the same class as like a Bijan Robinson. I don't know if he's contending for being in that tier of like RB1 or first round RB or maybe even second round RB type of material.
There probably really isn't going to be that. Like only one running back is going to have the chance, I think, to get taken in the first round. Right.
Yeah, I think it is just
Bijan.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
there's some other guys that I like though. There's one guy that I like maybe even a bit more than Spears that I'd rather talk about is a sleeper until I know more about Spears.
Is it Roschon Johnson?
Yes, it's the other Texas
I'm a very
back.
big fan of him too. I've watched him. Yeah.
I mean, you look at the efficiency metrics and like it's all screaming Roschon Johnson. Like this guy could be a sleeper. When he gets the ball, he's more efficient than any of them. He really, really stands out when you run those. He is a little bit like Bijan, where it's like I don't think he's very explosive. I don't think he has the home run speed. I don't think like he can make a guy miss. And then just like if he slows up, usually the pursuit can catch him. He's not someone who can make a guy miss, which obviously takes a little bit of time, And then once that happens, he just gets to full speed again and takes it to the house per se. But his footwork is really, really good, just like Bijan. He is really good at working through contact around his feet and legs and breaks a lot of tackles like that and like kind of squirts out of crowded, messy situations. He always seems to be able to kind of reduce himself and take his legs away and find a way to pick up tough yards and extra yards. He can block and he can catch. To me, that all sounds pretty good. He's got good size. He could be a little Kareem Hunt. Like I remember Kareem Hunt ran like a 4.6. Like he's not fast, but his footwork and his contact balance and everything else he brings to the table is there where he can like consistently keep your team on schedule. He can consistently break tackles and make some exciting plays, like make some highlight reel plays without the exciting speed. So I do think of him as almost like him and Bijan are kind of similar. And Texas played them both on the field like a good amount of the time because they knew that those are our two best guys, and they were both super productive and super efficient. And I really like both of them. And I think if Bijan wasn't there, Roschon Johnson would get a lot more hype.
He's one of those guys who's really got to be like dragged down instead of tackled, especially when going up the middle. Like, and it's always fun to watch those guys. So I 100% agree. I'm on board with him.
Okay. I mean,
yeah, him and Carbonet both, who I haven't seen too much of. I actually watched him a little bit last year because everyone thought he was going to declare, and then he came back to school. Carbonet too is a guy who I think can hold up and be the type of running back that I like.
Yeah, it does feel like there's a lot of power backs in this class, and then there's Gibbs and Spears that are kind of the.
Well, what about your guy
almost.
From
Dwayne McBride? I mean, he's the same. He like? He's the same
I haven't
way
seen him.
from
As
UAB.
what?
He's. What do you mean?
The same way as Tajay or
oh, like
Roschon
as in like he does not get tackled. Like he breaks so many tackles. His center of gravity is ridiculous. Like his contact balance off. I mean, this is when we talk about like efficiency led college football this year of like guys getting drafted 7.3 yards per attempt, 4.6 yards per attempt after contact. Now no one had as many broken tackles or missed tackles forced as Bijan at 104, which is ridiculous. But McBride had 76, which was third. So like breaking a lot of tackles, making people miss. I mean, he just does not go down. I mean, there's plays where, I mean, he gets to the outside and he's got, three guys coming at his left and one in front of him. He'll run over the guy in front of him and then use one of the guys coming on his left, like stiff arm him to stay in bounds. And then they all miss him and he runs for a touchdown. I mean, he's so hard to bring down.
Where would you take him? And where would you rank him among the guys that we've seen?
I mean, if he was like the third or fourth running back off the board, I think that's completely valid.
Okay.
So like maybe that might be mid third, early fourth, and just because of like the running back tax. But I mean, I haven't seen any reason that he can't be like a strong power back in the NFL, other than like I've never seen him like run away from a defense. He looks slow on tape. I'm not gonna lie.
You don't worry at all about him playing in just like an incredibly weak conference and that maybe boosting some of those analytics.
Maybe. But
Conference USA is horrible. That's a terrible conference.
But he killed it. Like he just shredded them. It's like what do you want him to do?
Play in a better conference.
I guess.
Yeah, I'd have to see him. The numbers are
he is slow. Like I've never seen him run away from a defense.
And I know for a fact he can't catch at all, right? Like he literally cannot catch the ball whatsoever.
I think what did he have? Yeah, he had 4 targets all year.
What? How can that be true? The quarterback, like, is he a good blocker at least then?
Lord, he better be.
I haven't seen him too much in pass protection.
Well, you should if he's not catching any balls.
I just wasn't that wasn't I wasn't paying
Who is
too
this
close attention to
quarterback?
that.
Like, you could put 4 targets to the running back. Like, he did go through his reads and they were like well covered. That didn't happen like a dozen times over the course of the season where you're like,
I mean, there's
a
a lot of running backs that didn't get there's a lot of running backs that didn't get targeted a lot. Like, we're gonna talk. We could talk about like Muhammad Abraham out of Minnesota, who was really high regarded like a couple of years ago, and then he got this like brutal injury. He only got targeted 7 times this year.
Dude. 1,700 rushing yards and 2 catches is hilarious, man. You will never see a ratio like that ever. No,
I mean, they're both
McBride.
Abraham's like that too. He had 1675 and 7
See, but at least he's doing it in the Big Ten. He's not doing it against Charlotte or whoever.
That's true. I like Abraham a lot too. I was really
that guy's not going to make it in the league, dude. Brutal knee injuries. And he's like 25 years old. Like, he's going undrafted, man. I'm sorry. I haven't watched him, so maybe I'm like totally wrong.
Well, I liked him. He
did have a monster season
before he got hurt, and then I was like, I think it was like his speed was just going to be completely sapped. Was like the big concern, but that was the concern with like Chubb too. But
towards Achilles.
Yeah.
I haven't watched him, so I guess I can't say. He has a troubling medical profile, but obviously we can't know.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah, I would say if we're going to rank these guys, I honestly like Roschon Johnson and Gibbs are very interesting. I think that one is more well-rounded and could play all 3 downs, but he's not going to ever be asked to do that. So unless something crazy happens, but he's just not quite electric enough where someone's like, oh yeah, we're going to hand him the keys. He'll probably be more of like a Latavius Murray spot starter and like change of pace guy who does a good job. And I don't know if I would be comfortable handing him the keys and being like, okay, we're gonna use feature you. So if neither Johnson or Gibbs is going to be featured, I'd probably take Gibbs just because he can do probably more with less. But if I had to start one all the time, I think I'd start Johnson. So that's kind of an interesting evaluation between the two. So I'd probably give him a pretty similar grade. Bijan is number 1. Spears, sure, I would take a chance on Spears, I think, maybe in the same vein as Gibbs, like on day 2, because he is really electric and productive. Charbonnet might be my guy, and I'll have to watch more. And A-Chain is also intriguing to me because I think he's got pretty good vision and, and speed.
I like Charbonnet, whatever it is. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. They don't Charbonnet? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
I like him a lot.
Yeah.
I think that he's real shifty behind the offensive line, but then he gets a head of steam, and he's very, very good for UCLA. So, but he's big, but he doesn't lose like all of his elusiveness. He's not like Bijan, but he doesn't lose all of his elusiveness when he gets top speed, which I really like. So I think that he's got the size and the profile to be more of a workhorse. A-Chain is like,
I haven't seen much of him since there's not much
he's good,
film.
But he's 188 pounds. You know, we're getting into some pretty like. I don't want to be. I saw the tape. I get it. He's got good strength for a guy his size, and he's real fast. His 40 time was awesome. He's 188 pounds. How much can you really run him? And I can only sit through so many Texas A&M games because that's a horrible team. Oh my God.
The line is really bad with him. They really didn't help him out. I look at all the efficiency stuff, and that's when, Roschon really stood out to me. And A-Chain was kind of concerning and troubling in a lot of those areas. But I remember watching like the Bama game. It's like, I don't know what he can do with this, what's in front of him here. I don't know how it's such a mess at A&M, which was like supposed to be a pretty good team this year, if I remember correctly. I need to watch more tape on him. I haven't found much All-22 available. A-Chain does intrigue me. A-Chain and Carbonet both intrigue me, especially Carbonet.
I assume you're out on McBride because he had 0.14 yards per route run.
I think that's a funny stat. I'd have to watch him because if he can really block, then like you can have him. He could probably make a career honestly, on like early downs.
Cannot remember for the life of me if he can block. But like he's so strong that I imagine he's probably not getting run over by like edge rushers.
The player you're describing from a tiny conference without home run speed who doesn't offer anything in the passing game, like doesn't really sound like a guy I'd be like dying for.
Right.
Yeah.
But I like if his contact balance really like is really special and like he's breaking all these tackles, then I'll have to see his vision and his decisiveness, I guess. But
fair.
Yeah, I haven't watched him, so I can't say anything about him.
I don't know.
But let's get into the tight ends.
Yeah.
Yes.
Starting off with the greatest tight end prospect we've ever seen, Darnell Washington. No, I'm playing. I'm joking.
There's a fair number of real strong tight ends in this class. Michael Mayer was getting some top 10 hype early in this process. And I think he has stopped getting that, not because people are lower on him, because I just think prevailing logic is like you shouldn't take a tight end that high unless they're Kyle Pitts or Brock Bowers next year. 5 years ago, I think he would have been up there. I'm really high on him. I like his play strength. I like his ability to get himself open. He's got good hands. Like he's very, very prototypical. Hawkinson is not a terrible comp for him at all. And he was a top 10 pick a while ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. But I think somebody, he'll get labeled as a safe pick. I think that's relatively fair. So I like him.
Yeah, he's someone who's been pretty dominant for Notre Dame for a while now. Like he's not any kind of 1 year wonder. He's been doing it at a high level of competition at Notre Dame to some extent. For a long time. And yeah, he's got great hands. You never see him drop anything. He's really dominant at the catch point, like great incontested catch situations, like just a wonderful security blanket that can make catches outside of his frame. He can track it when guys are hanging all over him. He can win the ball when it's not a great throw and it's 50-50. Like he turns it more into like a 60-40. So you got all that. And he's a really good route runner, I think. Like he really knows how to sell. He's going one way at the break of the route. Like he really gets people on their wrong foot or catches them flat footed, then goes the other way. And he's open. Like he's pretty deadly on like the stick nods where, it looks like he's running out and then turns up the field. Like he was very, very good in those situations from what I saw him. And he's a decent blocker. He's not like amazing at it, but he's pretty good. And he's got the body type to even be better because he's real thick and, he just looks like he'd be a good blocker. He's fine at it.
I mean, it's hard. I think it's hard to be well-rounded in today's NFL as a tight end.
It takes a lot of time. That's part of the problem with these tight ends. It just takes so long to get that all together. But he's pretty put together now.
Yeah.
He's
someone that I could definitely see my Green Bay Packers taking at pick 15. And I think that'd be probably the most pick I'd be like, okay, whatever on. Cause I really think he's going to, if he has the Jason Witten career and he catches a pass in every game for 10 years and he never does anything too crazy, but he's just like good and one of the top tight ends, like year in and year out, year in and year out, year in and year, wouldn't surprise me. And Jason Witten is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. I would say is maybe definitely going to be a Hall of Famer.
I think so.
I think so.
I'd be pretty shocked if he wasn't.
I don't know how many All-Pros he has. That's
really
I'm
looking that up right now. But.
Yeah, I guess the question about him is like, what is his ceiling? I mean, I guess anyone can get good enough at getting themselves open and reading zones and running routes properly, like Travis Kelce, where you're like, oh, well, if he's the best tight end, then you don't need to be that crazy of an athlete. But I think his athletic ceiling is not that nuts. Like, he's a bigger guy. He's never going to be like some super big downfield threat. And that's what makes it so where it's like, I don't know if I can take a guy who's not a downfield threat top 10. But once you get past like pick 10, you want to take him? Okay, I get it. And I
when was the last time teams I feel like every time we see a tight end get taken super high, it's someone like, one of these high profile. Yeah. It's one of it. I guess. Yeah, that is the last guy that got.
Yeah. I don't remember Hawkinson being like billed as this. He was just an amazing blocker and he had great hands and like people talked about him a lot, like Mayer, and Mayer ran a really good 3-cone, which like was important for him. And you could see it, like he could shake guys in man coverage. You really can. So he's my tight end 1 by a pretty comfortable margin. Honestly,
I agree.
I'm not as high on the other 2 as a lot of people are. But I do like Mayer. I'd be perfectly fine with taking him in the first round. I think that he's going to be a productive player for a long time. Pretty boring. He's the tight end is how I described him on Substack, is like, here is the tight end. He looks like a tight end. He is shaped like a tight end. He plays like a tight end. There's no Kyle Pitts, like he's going to change the way the tight end position is played. There's nothing like that with him. It is nope. He is actually
he went to Notre Dame. Like the whole thing is just
Notre Dame tight ends include who Kyle Rudolph was one, and Kyle Rudolph like was a very solid, good tight end for a long time.
Bears guy.
Komet, yes, Komet. He's just the tight end, not
the tight end,
not shattering any like personnel formation like chess piece. No, he's just
he's
really
almost
tight end.
It's like that the same logic you were talking about for Bijan, where it's like, oh, if I'm out of guys and he's here and I need to take someone I know is going to be just sort of a good lockdown pick at what I'm doing, Mayer could be that as well.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's
You're not getting fired for taking.
It's not even a cowardly pick.
Mayer.
It's just like, this guy may not be Gronk. He may not have that upside like Kyle Pitts did, or whoever you want to say. Kincaid, some people think, has way more upside than him. But like, I know that he's good. He's proven it time and time again, and he tested pretty well, and he was super productive. Like, okay, that seems like a first round pick to me. He checks basically every box. So yeah, he's one of the better players in the class, probably, in terms of like sheer amount of boxes checked.
And you look back at the tight ends in the first round, which have not done well historically, I feel like.
Really.
But the misses are usually like Noah Fant and Eric Ebron and OJ Howard.
And Ingram for a while.
And Ingram's is an interesting one, and the ones Njoku and Ingram are both the same sort of thing, but now they've come along as time has gone on. It does take a while. So I think Mayer kind of avoids the stereotype of like this tight end can really move, and then they get overdrafted.
Trying to revolutionize the tight end position, Mayer
as just a really big receiver.
Yeah.
A really big receiver, yeah.
Which gets us into...
By the way, I pulled up Jason Witten. 2 first-team All-Pros, 2 second-team All-Pros, 11 Pro Bowls.
Yeah, okay. So he's...
Yeah, once Kelsey retires, I could see like the 11 Pro Bowls with Kincaid where like he's 6th in yardage for tight ends. He's 5th in yardage for tight ends, and he gets like a Pro Bowl nod year in and year out. He's 4th in yardage for tight ends, like in that range. Maybe not the best in the league at any point, but always up there. So it's like, here he is a Pro Bowler, here he is a Pro Bowler, here he is. I could totally see that with him. I could see him. And that's an amazing draft pick if someone's a Pro Bowler all the time. And I look at the tight ends in the league right now, and there's just not that many very good ones. Like
it's a rough position.
It's Kelsey, and then there's like Mark Andrews, and
there's like Goddard.
Kittle.
That's kind of your second tier is like Goddard. And Njoku, and it's like he doesn't have that much competition. And then all of a sudden you could say like, I drafted a 10-time Pro Bowler. Like, look at me.
He also was a Walter Payton Man of the Year. So
Witten, that makes sense. He seems
that
like
does
he
make
would
sense.
Go to a military base and win some awards.
What?
I don't know.
Who are the stormtroopers in this comparison? Anyway, Theo, what do you like about Dalton Kincaid? Why do people think he could be?
Oh, I mean, he's a good receiver.
Think he could be a Gronk.
I don't think people think he can be Gronk, but he's a really good receiver. Like, he catches everything. He's good in contested catch situations. He's agile, fluid. He can run routes. He transitions from catcher to runner really smoothly. Like, he gets the ball, flips his hips upfield, and he's moving top speed pretty quickly. He really eats up a lot of space after the catch. So as a guy out running routes, he's pretty damn good, and it's maybe even better than Mayer in these situations. He just has a couple issues. He's an older prospect. Mm-hmm. He's got like this weird back injury that has like prevented him from doing anything in the pre-draft process, which is not really getting talked about, but like, he is not worked out because of his back and an injury that was sustained like a while ago, which kind of is like, makes me raise one eyebrow. Like, what? Okay, is this one of those situations where there's some medical issue which causes a guy to like free fall in the draft that happens every year? And he can't block. Yeah. He really can't block, and
he doesn't have the size to do it. And on top of being undersized, he's really not that great of an athlete.
I think he's a pretty good athlete, but
I don't know. For a guy who's 246 as a tight end, I don't think he's that crazy.
I don't think he's like Evan Engram tier, who is like, if you watch him at Ole Miss, you're like, oh my God, this is like Calvin Johnson or something. Maybe not him, but I think he's pretty good. Like, the way he can flip his hips and get to top speed after catching the ball is impressive to me. But yeah, he's not like one of the super freaks. Like, I don't think he'd test like Kyle Pitts or anything like that.
I mean, Mayer weighed in about the same as Kincaid did, which I don't know, because Mayer was listed at like 270 at Notre Dame. He was listed at like Darnell weight.
I'm saying that he got light to run the 40.
That's possible. Because I thought he was big. I thought he was like 20 pounds heavier than this.
Yeah. Yeah, his weight was a little bit lower, but you could just see like he's got a frame that's way different. Like, Kincaid is wiry. You can't like, and he blocks with like a lot of effort and hustle, and he's like willing to do it. It's not like he just doesn't care. Like, he does care. He just gets destroyed anyway because he's just not. He's doesn't have the frame for it. And this is kind of the thing about the NFL right now is like, I don't think that there's really a place for a tight end like that, like an easy place for them. That's like kind of a couple years ago now, where everyone was looking for like the next Jimmy Graham. And now you've got like Mike Gesicki, who can't start because their team is running a Shanahan offense, and it's like a 12 personnel league where you got to block, and like there's a lot of play action, and you got to block for a second. You got to hold up against ends. Like, this is the league now. There's play action. Like, Kittle is the guy that everybody's looking for. And it's not like Ingram is like kind of the one outlier who's like actually enjoying success, I think, without the body type or the assignment to block a whole lot. Like, I'd rather have a more traditional guy than a modern receiver type. Really. I just think that's the way the league is right now.
Yeah, I agree, because I mean, if they can't block well, you're sitting there, you're like, man, I'd rather just have another receiver out here.
Right.
Yes.
So,
it was a good idea. Like, you're looking for the guy who's bigger than the corners and faster than the linebackers. Like, what can you do? And it's like, really, there's not that many tight ends who act like, hypothetically, every tight end fits that description. Really.
I just think that's funny. I want someone who's bigger and faster than all of their other players. I say that's the new wave of tight ends.
Like, only Gronk and like Mark Andrews, and like, it's not like I don't know, man. Like, looking for that guy. We should have
more guys like Gronk. He is so good.
Exactly. Like, oh yes, I wish we could find another prime Jimmy Graham. It's like, yeah, so do I. You can't just have like Pitts was the guy where you're like, okay, that guy actually is like that. It's like, I don't know if Kincaid is quite that special. So I'm not huge on him. He is a really, like, I think that he gets close enough to that ideal where, you know, second round like day 2, it is fine. Cause he really is a good receiver. Like he really does bring a lot of promising traits as a receiver, to the point where if you wanted him to kind of play that power slot role, he probably would be pretty good at it. But I don't know if I see the path to him being dominant. I don't think he fits I don't think he'll fit a lot of teams in the league right now. And it's kind of tough to give one grade to one player when like you're not in charge of like one specific scheme. But yeah, I'm not super high on him compared to others. I think he's still fine.
Yeah, with him being 20, I mean he's 23 right now. He'll be 24 by the time the season starts, I think. A lot of like if he doesn't work out right away, like it took Njoku 4 years to figure it out. Right? He'd be 28 by the time it's time to give him a second contract. So like that's just, yeah, I don't know. But moving on to another kind of ridiculous guy, Darnell Washington. The frame is outrageous. The catch radius is unbelievable. Maybe we're a little bit worried about the maneuverability of Washington and just kind of how shifty he can be, in and out of his breaks and route running. But I mean, who is anyone to just kind of, I mean, you talk about someone that is just bigger than everyone. That's him. I mean,
I just talked for a long time, so I'll let you guys break down.
I think the gadget player that he is a very good gadget player, and that's why he'll go high. But the idea that he's going to just like, oh, I can teach him to route run. It ain't that easy, man. Like that's the hard part, dude. If he can learn to get himself open all the time, he'll be quite good. It doesn't work like that. And his the 3-cone time was like pretty good for him, or the 20-yard shuttle, whichever one. I'm sorry,
his 3-cone time was fake, dude. I get that he ran it and it was real and it happened, but like say like, oh, he's very agile. I'm like, I don't think so.
You think they're manufacturing?
I'm saying like his 3-cone time does not show up on tape at all.
You're right. You're right. No, you're not going to teach someone how to be a good route runner. You're right, Matt. But dog, you don't have to. Who's going to push him around? Right? If anyone tries to like disrupt his frame, they're probably going to get called for pass interference because you can't disrupt that. He's too big. That's it. It's too hard. So I think there's going to be a place for him just off of size alone. Like it's the same thing with outrageous with like Tyreek's speed, or like even you don't think it's the like? Let's take Jahmyr. Take Jahmyr Gibbs for example. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a place in the NFL, even if it's a limited role, just because that kind of speed, what he can do on the outside, his speed and agility is really hard to match, and it's really hard to find. Washington, I mean, you're not going to be able to find someone that can line up and just. Like even a great safety like Derwin James, it's going to struggle.
Derwin James would lock the fuck out of Darnell Washington. I'm sorry, he'd be covered. He'd be covered if he ran out in man coverage, and it was Derwin versus Darnell Washington. I've seen him be double covered, and he's just like pluck.
If it was that easy, he'd be some great red zone.
Right, exactly.
He's just not like he's not.
I guess that's true.
He's not that type of guy. Now he's a little bit more gadgety, and what he is very good, and certainly there is the potential for him to improve measurably on the route running. I don't think he's just like who he is and there's no growth at all. And you've seen guys who are basically Darnell Washington be very good. He was very good for Georgia. The blocking is really important. But he's
Mercedes Lewis. Mercedes Lewis is like a nice player.
That's a very good player. Hey, he made a Pro Bowl.
He did.
Yeah.
That's a comp that I think makes sense. But I think that Washington, he's a bit gangly. He's a bit uncoordinated, I think, like a little bit. He doesn't have great hands to me. Like he does not have the same sort of security blanket trustworthiness that Mayer and Kincaid have. It shows in his catch rate. I think he can take his eyes off the ball and look to rumble downfield a little bit too early. Like I noticed concentration drops on his film. He's not as good in contested catch situations despite his size as the other two that we've talked about. Like, I think in 12 personnel, he can come in, he can come block. I don't even think like he's a good blocker. I don't think he's like the best even in the class. Like he's good, but not like going to be like step in day one and be one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. Like some people make him out to be like an extra tackle. I think he could move to tackle. I've seen that take like floated unironically. Like, no, he could not move to tackle. He's not that good. So it's like, yeah, he's probably going to be a good tight end too. I think Georgia had it right. Like when he comes in, you're thinking run. He can move bodies. He is big. He is super strong. So he comes in, you're thinking run. He can help you when you do run it. When you do play action off of that, he can hold up versus edges if you need him to do that. And he can leak out into the route and sneak behind some guys and catch a pass without running like a real route, like just kind of releasing and like kind of leaking into the flat. Yeah. And when he catches it, he's tough to bring down. He's tough to handle. Guys go low on him all the time because he's so big and he knows it. He's got to hurdle more people than anyone else in this class. He hurdles like twice a game and it works. He like understands what people are trying to do to him and he's able to avoid it. So I think he's going to be like the exact same player it was at Georgia. Just a good tight end too. He's never going to have high volume, but he's going to be a hell of a lot of fun when he does. It's going to be fun the couple times per season where he does make a big play. I just don't think he's going to be that like, oh, he's tight end one in this class. Like if he's more productive than Mayer, I would be really shocked.
Yeah. So what? He ends up in Philly, and it's going to be that Eagles.
I love him in
prolific run game.
I love him in Tennessee. That's my favorite fit. Him and the guy who we talked about is an underrated player who has a really long name that I cannot remember off the top of my head right now. But he's such a good vertical threat. That guy, Chigo, I think like Chig. Chig is like his nickname that I'll go with. He and Darnell Washington would kind of be a fun pairing in Tennessee in 12 personnel to me. Like, gotcha. You don't know what to do. There's a vertical threat out there. There's a really good blocker out there. Like anything could happen.
Anything, whatever you put your mind to. Theo, you like another guy in this class before we get out of here, Sam LaPorta.
Yes. I like Sam LaPorta more than Darnell Washington. I'll say that. I don't know if I like him more than Kincaid,
okay.
But I view them as like kind of in a tier after Mayer. LaPorta is really nice. Like he is a compact player. He's a decent blocker, I think. Not maybe fantastic, but he's decent at it. He's from Iowa, which is always good for tight ends. That's tight end university right there. He's really good after the catch. Like he's pretty nimble and also tough. Like he can run through guys. He can take his feet away and kind of work around guys without having to work through contact. So really good threat after the catch. Pretty nimble, like route runner, deals with contact well down the field. Like he stays right on his line and sometimes guys will fall off of him because they are not as good as dealing with contact as he is. He was really productive for Iowa. Who is their quarterback? Like Spencer Petras. That guy is terrible. And yet still LaPorta was putting up decent numbers and had like twice the yards per route run as the next best Iowa guy. Like I thought if you put him with a better quarterback and like a better passing offense, like he could have been talked about in a much higher regard than he is now. I think he's a pretty well-rounded tight end that I would
20 missed tackles forced as a tight end is pretty insane.
Yeah, he's really good. There's a play against some blue team. I don't remember exactly who it was at the top of
my head. Blue team.
Some team
was it
wearing
Boise?
Blue. I don't know what it was.
Boise State?
No, it wasn't Boise. I don't know.
Was the field blue?
No, it was not. I would know if it was Boise. There's some team. Just search Sam LaPorta. It'll probably be the first thing that comes up where he like just runs through half the team.
Blue team.
I very much enjoy Sam LaPorta, and
Bro said the blue team.
Maybe Duke. I don't know.
They did not play Duke. They played Kentucky.
Oh, it may have been Kentucky. It may have been Kentucky.
They played Kentucky in a bowl game. That's the only, unless like South Dakota State blue.
Yes, But I don't know if it was some blue team. He ran those boys over.
Okay, I'll take you the blue team. What is this, like NCAA 11, and they're just like picking random team names? Blue team, first down. I don't know.
Do you guys have any sleepers? Did you watch any tight ends that we haven't talked about that maybe you like or don't like? Or
I watched LaPorta. I thought he was pretty good. I absolutely agree that the power plus the nimbleness is kind of wonky. And I'm thinking of one play, I forget who it was against, where he like really kills somebody with a head fake. And I'm like, man, college tight ends aren't supposed to be doing that stuff.
Was it against the blue team?
No,
it may have been against Sidney Brown, who's one of the safety prospects in this class. He killed Sidney Brown when they played Illinois. Killed him. I don't like Sidney Brown very much as a prospect, but
I thought that was some pretty advanced stuff for a tight end in college. And I don't want to label myself too much as do you see the school this guy went to? But man, Iowa tight end, that does speak highly of you. So,
I mean, what are the Iowa tight
Kittle
ends?
And Hawkinson are both top 10 tight ends, and they both went to Iowa. And then there's Fant, who has been a decent player, I'd say, for a while now. He didn't quite live up to his billing as a first round pick, but Hawkinson and no one can say that Hawkinson and Kittle have been bad players. Like, they're both top 10 at this point. So
yeah.
I also watched the Old Dominion guy, Zach Kuntz, I think his name is. Mm-hmm. He was an intriguing talent, like the way he kind of moves around and gets off the ball at his size. He's like 6'8". He killed the combine.
He was like a 10 RAS score, wasn't he?
Yeah, he may have been. And he
10?
Yeah, he was really he's really tall and fast. But he just looked uncoordinated when I watched. Like, the ball would come into the air and I'd be like, how are you adjusting to this? This doesn't seem right. And like, I don't know. He seemed like an athlete playing football, and he's older, and he like had to transfer out and only had 13 starts at like Old Dominion. And I'm like, I don't know if I quite see someone who is like coordinated and like a football player, like who knows what he's doing, knows how to get open, knows how to adjust to the football, like knows how to block like effectively. Like I just didn't know if I saw a football player. I saw someone who was like, damn, that's a tall dude who gets out of his stance at like really quickly. He's fast, but I don't know. He's a traits guy that you may want to take a chance on, like early day 3, like round 4, maybe round 5. But I didn't quite see enough for me to be like, oh yes, this Old Dominion tight end is actually going to come in and dominate the league, like his testing suggests.
I'm going to eventually find out if Dwayne McBride's a good blocker, and I'll get back to you on that, Theo. Okay. And then we'll determine if he's a real NFL prospect. But as always, thank you all for tuning in. We will move on to offensive line, front 7, secondary players to kind of wrap up this pre-draft section of the podcast. And then, might have some guests on, might do another mock draft. Who knows? The world may never know. But until then, thank you all for tuning in. And as always, from Cornboy, Birdboy, Lemon Boy, we will catch you all on the Flippity Flop.